Untuk ini saya juga mensaluti negara Malaysia yang begitu berani guys ya. Bahkan ditentang oleh negara-negara barat, dia juga tidak peduli. Yang saat ini sedang diinjak-injak harga dirinya. Bukan hanya harga dirinya saja guys, bahkan dibunuh secara sadis. Keputusan yang sangat berani yang diambil oleh Malaysia, yang mana keputusan itu akan membuat namun juga keputusan ini sangat-sangat riskan dan akan dibenci oleh negara-negara barat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Halo guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Selamat datang, selamat berkunjung kembali ke channel ini. Apa kabar Anda semua di sana guys ya? Dan selalu saya mendoakan semoga kita semuanya dalam keadaan baik-baik saja, dalam keadaan sehat selalu. Dan hari ini saya sangat bahagia guys, karena kita dapat bertemu lagi pada kesempatan siang hari ini, siang yang cukup cerah ya. Kita dipertemukan pada video kali ini. Dan selalu ya guys ya, saya juga mendoakan segala macam aktivitas kita diberikan kemudahan dan kelancaran oleh Tuhan yang Maha Kuasa. Amin. Guys, di sini ada pembahasan terbaru lainnya yang unik, menarik dan juga cocok ya, layak untuk kita angkat pada video kali ini. Tentang hal apa itu, guys? Baik, di sini diceritakan kisah tentang Maksud asal Amerika Serikat, yang mana dia mengaku ya sudah cukup lama dia menetap di negara Malaysia dan juga telah menjadi seorang mu'alaf. Nah, jadi guys, apabila dia sebagai kaum muslimin sekarang tentunya juga mendukung negara-negara Islam yang ada di dunia ini, termasuk Malaysia, Indonesia dan juga Palestina ya guys ya, seperti itu. Namun di sini ya guys ya, ia mengaku ada statement langsung dari dia yang sangat mengejutkan. Jadi masalah ini memberikan sebuah statement yang sangat mengejutkan, bahkan didengar oleh negara-negara barat yang ada di sana ya guys ya. Nah, statement seperti apa itu? Nah, jadi di sini guys, dia mengaku bahwa ada satu keputusan dari Malaysia. Keputusan ini sangat-sangat berani. Dia mengakuinya guys, keputusan yang sangat berani yang diambil oleh Malaysia, yang mana keputusan itu akan membuat negara-negara barat sangat marah, sangat murka terhadap negara Malaysia guys. Nah, keputusan apa itu? Ternyata bukan hanya keputusan dari negara Malaysia membela Palestina saja ya guys ya. Di sini ternyata ada keputusan lainnya, yang mana keputusan ini secara berani akan membuat negara-negara barat semuanya akan marah kepada negara Malaysia. Namun dia mengaku Malaysia tetap menjalankan dan juga komitmen dengan keputusan itu. Nah, di sini guys, kita akan membahas sebenarnya apa yang dimaksud oleh Maksud asal Amerika ini guys. Keputusan yang diambil oleh Malaysia, selain keputusan ia membela Palestina, namun juga keputusan ini sangat-sangat riskan dan akan dibenci oleh negara-negara barat. Oke guys, sebelum kita mereaksi video itu, alangkah baiknya bagi Anda yang belum support, belum dukung channel ini, silakan kalian klik tombol subscribe dan aktifkan notifikasi bel agar tidak ketinggalan update video terbaru dari channel ini. Dan langsung saja guys, kita akan mereaksi video itu, apakah yang dimaksud oleh Maksud keputusan itu guys ya, keputusan berani dari Malaysia. Jom kita reaksi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me talk about how Malaysia is trailblazing the way forward for the Muslim world and for the global South generally, and particularly with regards to responding to the genocide in Gaza. As most of you know, there has been a worldwide boycott against Starbucks, and in Malaysia, that boycott has been almost airtight. The public is not tiring after 3 months, and they're not weakening in their will to boycott Starbucks, and Starbucks is suffering serious financial and reputational damage in Malaysia. Now, the same goes for McDonald's and a number of other franchises. Now, an interesting thing has happened with the McDonald's franchise in Malaysia, and it's something that's frankly hilarious to me as someone who works in the PR industry. The local representatives of the BDS movement in Malaysia made some what I regard as irresponsible statements about McDonald's in Malaysia, saying, for example, that specifically McDonald's in Malaysia is colluding with genocide, and other similar incendiary statements. Well, the branch of McDonald's in Malaysia has always been pro-Palestinian, and they've always been clear about that. And they don't bear any accountability or responsibility for what any other international branch of McDonald's might do, or what the position of the headquarters at McDonald's might be. But now McDonald's in Malaysia is suing BDS for millions of ringgit. Now, as you all know, I advocate boycotting these franchises, even if the local branches may take pro-Palestinian stances, because, of course, they are still connected to their U.S. Corporate owners. And at the end of the day, they are sending some percentage of their revenues to the U.S. and to those corporate headquarters. I think that BDS in Malaysia was wrong for wording their statement the way they did. But at the same time, McDonald's in Malaysia is doing far more damage and far more harm to themselves by suing BDS than any harm that BDS caused to them by what they said. I mean, how exactly do you think that you can redeem yourself and redeem your image and prove to the population that you're pro-Palestinian and anti-Zionist by suing BDS? It's absolutely absurd. It's a total PR disaster for McDonald's. You know, BDS has been throwing rabbit punches at McDonald's, and McDonald's now has decided to knock themselves out with one blow. It's ridiculous. And I think everyone knows about how Malaysia has been refusing to allow Israeli shipping vessels to dock in their ports. So Malaysia is doing very well with regards to responding to the Zionist violence. But what I think is the truly trailblazing thing about the Malaysian response to the genocide in Gaza is the fact that the population of Malaysia, by their own initiative, they are heavily promoting buying local, shopping local, and generally trying to avoid Western brands, Western stores, Western companies. I mean, in the New Year's Eve celebrations just a few days ago over the Petronas Towers, they shot off fireworks that exploded this message, buy local, over the skies of Kuala Lumpur. This is the way forward, in my view, because as I've said many times, Zionism is nothing but Western colonialism. And the brutality of the Israelis, Western funded, Western armed, Western trained, flying Western warships, helicopters and warplanes, dropping Western built bombs, their brutality demonstrates again that the West has not changed. Western colonialism is just as violent and just as supremacist as it ever was. They dehumanize indigenous populations. They devalue our lives, they devalue our blood, and they see anyone and everyone whom they want to subjugate as less than human, as inherently inferior, and as unworthy to live on the earth. That's how they always were, and that's how they are today, and that's how they're operating in Gaza right now. And you can't just say that it's the way the Israelis are operating in Gaza right now. No, the Israelis are just the pawns of the collective West. They're the soldiers of Western colonial intrusion. Israel is an entity of colonization and colonial imperial criminality. Well, the collective West is accountable. The collective West is behind the atrocities in Gaza. And there's simply no doubt about that. There's no question about that. And there's no argument about that. And as I've said many times, we don't only hold responsible the private sector powers, which are, after all, the ultimate beneficiaries and the ultimate engines of colonization and imperialism in the world today from the West, Western imperialism, Western colonialism. We don't only blame the private sector powers, the corporations, the companies, and the brands who openly support Zionism. We don't only blame those. We don't only blame the ones that openly applaud the massacring of our women and children and our babies. But we will blame any corporation and any company and any brand that does not condemn the massacring of our women and our children and our babies in Gaza. We'll hold accountable any of them who don't disavow it and who don't publicly oppose it, and oppose it by means of their economic and political power. And by extension, by logical extension, we hold the private sector power of the collective West responsible. We hold the private sector power of the collective West culpable and guilty of being colonizing institutions, institutions of subjugation, institutions of exploitation. And we know with those institutions that violence is always an option for them. We know that violence, extreme, inhuman violence, is always going to be in their arsenal to support market expansion. So the call to buy local, the strategy of shunning Western brands, Western companies, and Western corporations, and for every country in the global South to redirect all of their economic activity, all of their market activity, all of their consumer activity towards domestic producers and providers. This movement that is taking place in Malaysia is absolutely the right approach. It's the moral approach. And it's not only the right move in terms of supporting Palestine and the Palestinians, and in terms of opposing the Zionists, it's the right move in terms of supporting our own countries and our own economies and opposing colonization. This is the only way that we can ensure that the pivot to the global South by Western economies doesn't just turn into another era of colonialism and imperialism and exploitation and subjugation. So alhamdulillah for what Malaysians are doing. And they're doing it without anyone organizing them. They're doing it without anyone telling them to do it. They're just telling each other. And they're taking this very practical and very positive step without any fanfare, which is quite typical, mashallah, of the Malaysian people. And we can learn a lot from that. And we should all emulate it. And of course, it goes without saying that this isn't only happening in Malaysia. It is happening to one extent or another all around the world. But we need it to intensify. And we need to put the entirety of the collective West under a blockade. Just like the Israelis have had Gaza under a blockade for 18 years. Like I've said before, we all went through COVID lockdowns. So we had that imposed upon us. We had it imposed upon us largely under the orders of the West. Well, we can impose that all over again, but against the West. You know, we had at least 2 years of learning how to not go shopping, how to not go eating out in restaurants and so on. So learning how to shop and eat at restaurants or at any establishments other than Western establishments, that should be easy. Jazakumullahu khairan, wassalamu alaikum.
Dan demikian tadi guys, baru saja kita saksikan, kita lihat, kita reaksi bagaimana statement dari Mat Saleh asal Amerika Serikat yang dengan berani, dengan tegas menyatakan bahwa dia merasa salut dengan Malaysia dan juga masyarakat Malaysia yang mana dengan kompaknya ya guys ya, memboikot produk-produk dari perusahaan yang mendukung gerakan Zionis untuk menggenosida negara Palestina. Nah, dia di sini sangat kagum ya dengan konsistennya rakyat Malaysia untuk tidak lagi memakai produk-produk itu, produk-produk impor yang mana produk dari perusahaan yang mendukung gerakan Zionis itu guys. Nah, kali ini dia juga semakin bergairah menyatakan bahwa produk-produk lokal dari Malaysia itu ya sekarang sudah diminati oleh orang-orang Malaysia itu sendiri dan juga menghindari untuk menikmati produk lokal. Tentunya ini akan sangat berdampak negatif bagi negara Zionis guys, bahwa produknya tidak laku, ekonomi mereka otomatis lambat untuk meningkat ya guys ya. Tentunya tidak akan dapat lagi membeli senjata-senjata karena dana mereka akan sangat terbatas apabila produk-produk mereka itu banyak diboikot negara-negara Islam termasuk negara Malaysia. Dan dia juga mengakui mensupport negara Malaysia. Dengan tegasnya dia menyatakan bahwa memboikot semua produk-produk itu ya guys ya, yang mendukung militer Israel untuk menghancurkan negara Palestina. Nah, ini ada sisi positifnya juga guys bagi negara Malaysia dan juga wirausaha yang ada di Malaysia. Tentunya akan menambah nilai saing produk-produk lokal, meningkatkan kualitasnya dan juga sekarang tentu sudah digemari guys ya. Produk lokal Malaysia banyak dikonsumsi oleh orang-orang Malaysia itu sendiri. Tentu ini akan menambah pendapatan bagi perusahaan-perusahaan lokal dan juga akan meningkatkan daya saing serta akan meningkatkan lapangan pekerjaan yang ada di sana guys ya. Itu adalah nilai tambah dari apa yang dilakukan atau keputusan yang diberlakukan oleh negara Malaysia. Untuk ini saya juga mensaluti negara Malaysia yang begitu berani guys ya. Bahkan ditentang oleh negara-negara barat, dia juga tidak peduli demi rasa cinta ya, demi rasa kasih sayangnya terhadap negara Palestina yang saat ini sedang diinjak-injak harga dirinya. Bukan hanya harga dirinya saja guys, bahkan dibunuh secara sadis. Nah, itu yang sedang diperjuangkan oleh negara-negara Islam, termasuk juga Yaman, Lebanon, dan juga Malaysia, Indonesia juga guys ya. Kita juga selalu mendukung kemerdekaan Palestina sampai kapanpun. Baik guys, demikian tadi video aku. Semoga video ini bermanfaat bagi kita semua, dan aku mohon undur diri, mohon maaf jika ada kesalahan kata, kesalahan sikap, dan aku akhiri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.